Okay, if you want to come forward and tell us a little bit about this and
Well, we're a little confused because the,
give your name for the record, please.
I'm Cindy Morgan, I'm
Okay.
attorney at Sparta. We're a little confused, because we don't know where we're standing in this. I came last Thursday to get a copy of the municipal code. We can't get a copy of the municipal code at this city hall. They don't have a copy of their municipal code. I asked for a copy of all the documents concerning this matter. I got those at 6:45 this morning. We were told that we were following not what's in the municipal code that's published on the internet through the MTask, that we're following the international code, but I wasn't told which version of the international code. So we did look at the property maintenance code. That property maintenance code also says that at the hearing, that y'all would provide a copy of the rules and procedures so we know how to proceed. We don't know what the rules and procedures are for this appeals meeting because there's none that's published that I know of. Are there? We don't know the burden of proof. We don't know who goes first. We don't know the call of order. We don't know if we call witnesses. We don't know what procedure y'all are following.
Well, I think a lot of this is immaterial. What we're here for is the building is going to have to be repaired.
And
we have a lot of questions that we like to have answered. And then we'll have more information. I think Mark can answer most of those for
Those
us.
things aren't immaterial. Okay, when we're following the code and we're following the code, we want to comply, but we want to know how to comply and we want to know what procedure. We are trying to come in compliance. We've got a demolition order. According to the code that is established, there are certain rules about notices and how this procedure takes place. As far as I can tell, none of those things have been complied with as far as giving notice to things. As a matter of fact, we didn't even receive a notice of this hearing. It wasn't sent to us. We had to call and find out, and we found out, I think last week, that there was having a hearing today in order for us to get our stuff together for today. But there's not even a notice sent out. The rules that's within the international code requires all these notices to be sent by certified mail, published to the owner of the property. None of these things were complied with. We have, and I guess your concern is the building and safety of the building. We did have a engineer come out.
Yes.
Do you have the engineer statement? Gary Bolton, he's an engineer in Putnam County. He came out this morning. We've been trying to get him out for several weeks since we got notice of this demolition. Gary Bolton came out and did an engineering report this morning on the building.
See, you have to copy that. Thank you.
I have a, you can have a copy of it.
Joe, did you say this? Engineers report.
This was done just this morning. He was supposed to be out last week and they had some issues with a building that had flooded. And he was called out to do some engineering things last week and did not come when he was supposed to do last week in order to do it. So he came this morning in order to get it done.
Okay.
My understanding from Mr. Bolton's report is that right now it's not a safety hazard. It will become a safety hazard for immediate repair if it's not done right now. So he says as of right now, it's not an immediate danger. And they've gone over the remedies for fixing it. We have also contacted Michael Blaylock. He's a block mason in White County. Mike came out and looked at it last Tuesday.
That's two different.
Thursday. The same day I came in here and requested the documents. Mr. Blaylock came and looked at it last Thursday. They made a plan as far as the repair of basically tearing that back corner out. They've got to support the structure while they tear out the back corner and basically lay a new block and put a new brick veneer. So the brick veneer matches the brick veneer that's already on there. But they're going to put concrete blocks, correct me if I'm wrong, concrete blocks.
That's what we're looking at. Yes.
At it after it's supported. To go all the way back down to the original foundation. Or
The foundation of
To
the
footings.
ditch.
and you might tell that the
I'll go
Yeah.
over that one.
and so
And we repair the side corner also.
Yeah, that's some minor repair
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So brickwork. basically.
Right, yeah.
It's not structural, but
No,
it's cosmetic. Right.
well, most of this is cosmetic. That
Correct.
tree, when it grew up in between, separated two buildings there,
Correct.
which was
Yeah.
not your building.
Yes.
I was wondering who tore did you tear the
I
other
had to
building?
tear the other one down, yes.
Okay,
That
so
was
it's,
due to the
it's,
fire. And then when they were taking down the comic book store, my building was damaged, the wall, and at that time, the cost to repair it was. It was prohibitive. In retrospect, I wish I would have repaired it. Because we would not be here today, and I'd have two buildings there instead of potentially none. So in the long run, it would have been much cheaper to repair it.
How long has this building been vacant and in a state of disrepair?
It's been vacant for, I don't know, 30 years maybe.
Okay, and then in this particular state of disrepair with
The tree was there
the-
before I purchased it, and it had no roof on the back part, and I'm gonna
Okay,
educate you all on where that building state is. It quite honestly is in much better shape than it appears. So, but you'll see that today. I have
Okay.
detailed pictures of the entire building that I will share with each one of you and go through it. I spent a lot of time to do this and to make sure that everyone understands exactly where we are with that building. That building is one of the best built buildings in downtown.
the tree has already done its damage. It came in between the buildings, pushed this wall. It's caused most of this problem, really. And of course, removing the other building, this should have been repaired at that time and
Yes,
it would have
it
been,
should.
that,
wall, quite honestly, should have been taken down at that time.
Yeah.
When that building was taken
Yeah.
down.
and actually you could take that wall all the way down, all the way back. And I've looked at it several
There
times.
was something that we were thinking about in order to utilize the lot on Main Street, to possibly put an ice cream shop in there and to have some type of garage door, glass doors or something
Mhm.
to come out to that front Main Street lot with some tables and awnings or whatever, for people to enjoy and have an outdoor cafe like.
But now for the board members that's not seen the building, I toured the building, went back again this morning and looked. He has done a tremendous amount of work on repair to the floor system. I mean, it's,
And I'll be able to, Jerry, I have
okay,
detailed pictures for everyone here, so I'll be able to speak to that.
And I think that we'll just open up and let if the
Okay.
board have any questions or what they need to know with regard to the building. I think that Mark can answer all the questions for the
Mhm.
board, but he is trying to make efforts. Last year, there was contact from the city with regard to the building. They made some hickory repairs and put the block surrounds around there to keep any kind of loose bricks from falling on it. I think that Mark went up there last November, and removed all the loose bricks during that time here. And some of these notices that we got this morning at 6 o'clock this morning, Mark tells me he never received. I think there may be some issues with the addresses they're going to. They should have been sent certified mail, so they would have, we've got one that was sent certified mail that did get.
The
And
demolition.
that was
order.
the demolition.
well, a lot of that, and I know that's important, but where we're at now.
Well, that's what I'm trying to
Oh.
explain, that we could have
I
taken action.
understand that.
quicker Had we.
And
if
it's
we
one
knew the
member,
Urgencies, we would
I'll-
definitely been
Let
addressing.
let
this.
me go
quicker.
through this and
Okay.
speak to this, okay? So I don't really know where the Dinty Moore name came from, but this is what I found on Dinty Moore. So I don't know if that's what they use, but it came from 1913 cartoon strip. This first picture with the trees, branches sticking out. That was prior to me going up in November 2nd and 3rd of last year. Which the second picture, and you can see the bricks interwoven in the bottom of the tree here. They're all loose bricks in there. The second picture shows where I trimmed the tree back and removed all the loose bricks that were there. I had to lift for 2 days. I went through the entire wall.
That was in November of last
That
year.
was November, yeah. I pulled all that brick down on the side there where we talked about repairing that. I also went, if you can see me up there on the lift, I was 50 pounds heavier than, so. I did reattach the top metal awning to the brick, so that wouldn't blow up, because that was a concern. And then that fourth picture is just a current state of where we are, and also place the blocks in the bottom to stabilize that corner and prevent, they're about 3,000 pounds each, so it's about 12,000 pounds. I did offer to go higher, up to 4 high and go longer. The city said that wasn't necessary.
It's not,
So-
that's not going to put any strength. It's just to keep
Okay.
somebody from walking up there, apparently.
This is the roof. This has a 26 gauge metal roof, commercial roof that was put on approximately 15 years ago. When the city drug burnt and the comic store burnt, the firefighters were on my 2 roofs putting the fire out. And quite honestly, if they didn't have metal roofs on them, we probably would have lost the entire block. That's the back wall with the drain. That's the top where I reattached the flashing. Okay, so the next picture is an H-beam. This building is constructed out of all H-beams. H-beams are the strongest beams that you can use. They're mainly made for skyscrapers and different type of things. They're different from an I-beam. An I-beam is tapered at the end here. An H-beam is a solid, like 1/2 to 3/4 inch. So they're very, very strong, and they can handle additional weight. And the way they're made, or an I-beam is formed out of a single piece. An H-beam is actually welded for the top and bottom to make it stronger. So it's the strongest type of beam you can use for a building. So this building has these H-beams every 10 feet. Okay, on the roof of the second floor, basically, and the roof also. So the first floor is constructed a little differently, and I'll go through that. So every 10 feet, we have these, and then they're all interlaced with wood, which I believe you'll be able to see. And any part that I repaired, we bolted also through the beam and through the wood to create, each beam helps each other out. So God forbid, if that wall ever fell, let's say the whole wall went down, the building wouldn't come down. Okay, and that's where the repairs were made. The only person that may know in this room what the state of that building was beside me when I purchased it is Jim Brock. The roof in the back was completely gone on both buildings, the Main Street building and that building. Okay. That last 10 feet, what that did, all the water was going down there. It rolled down to the second floor, completely took out 20 feet of the second floor, went down to the first floor. The first floor where the kitchen was is all poured concrete. So it didn't do nothing to the poured concrete, but it did roll to the 45 feet in front of it by the front door. It goes all the way back and tore out, rotted all that out. The beams, the main beam for the first floor, all the floor joists, and all the plywood. And you can see in these pictures where that's all been replaced. So this next picture here is the second floor. This is the old Main Street building. Okay, if you notice, there's, I don't know if it's Seal Brothers or clothing or some, I don't know what that was, but that was an advertisement on the back of that building. And all they did when they built the Dinty Moore, because the Main Street building was built in the early 1900s. The Dinty Moore was built in 1955. So they built everything around it, and when they got to the back of this building, they just tied into it, is what they did. So, and those electric meters, I assume were from the Main Street building, but they're still there. The next picture is a picture of the second floor. That is, you can see the beams every 10 feet and how the wood for the ceiling and the wood for the upper roof is all tied into those beams. And you can see the shape of the walls. There's no issue there with the walls all the way around. The flooring's fine. Okay, this next picture here, this is where the roof was gone, and this is what was replaced on the roof side. And that's the back wall of the building, and this is the side wall where the Main Street one was. This here is a lolly column or jack post. There's one beam that is close to the tree, a little bit above the tree. So what I did is I put up a lolly column, and this thing holds almost 12,000 pounds. Okay, about 2-3 feet away from it. And there's the rating of it. But that's just to give, God forbid the tree went down, that the beam wouldn't collapse. So, and then about 4 feet away from that, there's another brick wall. Which I have in these pictures actually. You can give them like one of each of them. There's where the bathrooms were, but it's still on the concrete floor there. There's a block wall that goes up all the way to the beam also. And I secured that with wood to make sure that if anything ever moved, it has the lolly column and the block wall as support. So this is the restaurant part, the kitchen part. This is the Main Street sidewall. That part there is fine. This is the back wall of the Dinty Moore building, and this is the staircase that goes down to the basement. That's also blocked. Okay, the next picture, which the pile of wood, is mainly to show you the subfloor for the first floor. That's all been done relatively in the last 10 years. That's all new, and I'll show you the beams. Yeah, that's what one of the H beams actually looks like. Yeah, just passing around. That's an H beam, and the size of it, you can see it's like 16 inches. And then like 8 or 9 inches wide, so. So the subfloor here is about 44 feet long and about 16 feet wide. And then the pile of wood, there's actually all hardwood. That's actually for the floor, for the subfloor. It's oak and beech to go down. And I took that out of another building. Okay, the next picture here is the new first floor main beam, as well as all the new floor joints that hold up the subfloor with all the joint hangers. That's 44 feet. That beam there is like 4 or 5 deep, and it's all on post columns, which are these black columns like every 10 feet. And that's the basement. The important thing here in this basement is this little concrete area. Okay, this is where the wall is, or adjacent to the wall that's coming down. All right. For some reason, they decided to pour concrete, and it's 5 feet wide and it's about 25 feet long. So you can put anything we want on there to support any of those beams back there that we need to. I talked to 2 engineers. One, I worked with a guy up in New Jersey that I knew, and I showed him some pictures and explained. And he said, this is easy, because I was having a hard time, is how am I gonna support these beams so the building doesn't come down while I take the wall down? He says, if you got poured concrete, he said, all you have to do is run a beam along that, put them up to the other beams, come across, and you're supported. So, and of course, this engineer that we have down here will ultimately issue the final recommendation if allowed. Sure. So there's just another picture of the beam for the first floor. This next one here, as you can see, this main column, this is the middle support beam. It's only about 5 feet away from the poured concrete. So it's about 18 inches by 18 inches, that column. And the main beam that goes down that back kitchen there for that 25-30 feet is also 18 inches by 18 inches. So I'm not sure what they were planning on supporting there, but it's overbuilt to like the 10th degree, quite honestly. And that's another picture of the basement. It does have a full basement, block around all the sides, of course, except for where the kitchen was, which is mostly poured concrete for strength and durability. And over to the left here, you can't see it. There's actually another block wall that had a meat cooler for when the restaurant was being used. And there you can see the size of the main beam. But structurally, the Dinty Moore is in fantastic shape. It's overbuilt. It was built in the 50s. It has stayed in good shape. The issue that we have is not with the Dinty Moore structure itself. It's with the wall of the Main Street building.
I agree with that, and we'll hear from Sean in a few minutes, but I guess our concern is this is something that's got to be addressed. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got to be repaired if
We
give you more
want
time.
the opportunity to repair.
Oh, I'm just one of many
Right.
here, but I'd hate to see
That's
the
what we're
building.
asking.
The building's too good to tear down, in my opinion.
We don't want to see the building torn down. I didn't buy them to tear it down. And, you know, I worked a long time to try and get this to a place where we can fix it, you know. And we've had setbacks. I'm not gonna, you know,
Right.
I mean, I had to pay to take the building down 10 years ago that it took a long time to get over, you know, financially, not.
Sure, I
not-
understand.
You know, emotionally, I'll never get over it, but financially, I have. So, you know, and this one, you know, I don't think the city will be well served with the vacant lot there. I just don't. This building is too valuable. It's too well built. What's happened downtown, you know, we started 25 years ago, quite honestly. And it's night and day difference than where it was when I lived here,
Mhm.
you know, and, you know, we started Main Street for that reason. I mean, that's what it was. My name is on the articles of incorporation for Main Street McMinnville. I signed it. I was the first president of Main Street McMinnville. I was there for 2 or 3 years. And then I was on the board after, and then I moved away. So I know what the town looked like. I worked with E&G Engineering when we did phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. I was all part of that. So I know what Fraley's looked like. I know what Park Theater looked like. I know what the blue building's been torn down 4 times in its incarnation over 20 years. I mean, you know, that's where we were. Some people wanted to save it, some people wanted to tear it down. When I'm here, I live across the street from the blue building.
Right.
Okay. I love what's happening with the blue building. I love what's happening. So, I mean, the Dinty Moore, in spite of me, should not come down. So if I need to get out of the way of it to make sure that happens, then I will. But I think I have a plan that I can address it.
So my understanding here is the Dinty Moore building is in good shape with these pictures. The building behind it, that used to be the back of a different building that no longer exists.
Correct.
So are those bricks just interior bricks that are left out there to weather?
Except for the interior where that stucco is, where that sign is, it says the clothing place. That was covered, the bricks were covered with stucco, you know, and they were exposed for about 40 years.
So is your intention to tear the back of that building off and replace those, or is that it?
We're gonna tear that whole corner.
Okay.
Okay, we weren't gonna tear down the 15 other feet of it. We would repair that sidewall at this point. And we would do some things to make sure that the weather, you can weatherize them so that they, you know, there's waterproofing techniques and different things you can do to make them, you know. We also talked to David when David was here about a mural on there when everything was said and done. You know, you could paint it. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do to make sure the brick is in, you know, won't happen with what's happening now, which is water is penetrating into the brick. It's going through freeze and thaw cycles, especially in the winter time. It's cracking the brick up and then it's loosening and coming down.
I think what I would like to see is I think it's unfortunate that we have gotten to the place where to create action here, a demolition order had to be issued. I think that's unfortunate, but I think that what we really need as a board and as the city is for you to present a plan
Mhm.
and action. And I don't know what the rules are for that, Sean. I don't know if we have a procedure for that, but a plan with a timeline, with deadlines that are going to be met to address this, because I'm looking back at this chain of communications and I'm seeing, you know, records of code violations just on this that date back to April of 2022.
Mhm.
And so, you know, we've got 2 pages of correspondence here, and we are now
Some
here,
I received and some I didn't.
right? But we are now here at this point of,
No,
Okay.
and none of us can change
right.
what I've done and what the city done in the past. But, like, well, I can't do nothing about it, and you guys can't do what you did. All we can do is choose to move forward and try and work together and get the building to a better place, or we can choose not to, and you can issue a demolition order. I mean, that's, I can't change what is happening. I can explain about, you know, I never received any notice for the May 4th letter. You know, I don't live at 29 Washington Ave, so if they were being sent there, it's a miracle I got the certified mail, quite honestly, and that I'm here today. Because it was not delivered to my current address, which is 49 Alpine Place. David Bird had my email, he had my phone number, he had my proper address. I didn't receive any phone calls regarding this entire year. I didn't receive any emails regarding this since they said January. So I mean, you know, you would think that someone would have reached out to me in May and said, hey, you know, you need to get before the Historic Planning Commission that they're gonna vote for a demolition order. Knew nothing about that meeting, knew nothing about, you know, coming down and talk to me about it. So I couldn't present anything because I didn't know it existed. I would have been here if it did. I'm here today. I've been here for over a week. You know,
Do you have a time frame?
for not currently, no. I mean, but we're looking to do it this year. I can tell you that much.
You know, Mark, this engineer's report says a lot, Dan, you know, it really the only thing I'm concerned about is that tree and that in that side of that building. You know, and it says, the engineer's report says it needs to be removed, you know. And if you can get that and get a timeline with that, you know, when that.
Well, that would be the first thing that we would work on is where that tree is and that corner, that L.
And that is
All
a
the
separate part of the building, though.
That is a separate part of the
That
building.
is not.
That is not part of the Dinty
It
Moore
grew up
building.
and pushed this back, and so that's what you need to understand.
Yeah.
That, you know, you got the Denny Moore building, then you got the other building, the tree came up and pushed the wall back. It
Mhm.
should have been taken care of.
But he owns
sometime.
that part too.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's-
now
that's part of your
it's his
business.
baby.
But it's not
Yeah.
part of the
It's
Dinty Moore.
not, absolutely. I
Yeah,
look at it
Denny
every
Moore
time.
lot, it's not part of the deed. The deed for that wall is main 205 East Main Street.
When are you gonna tear those brick off and that tree down?
That's it. That's
Okay.
what has to be.
When are you
Be
going
done.
to? When's the?
That's when I'm working with the mason he has to send me a plan. He's been in to see it. You know, I'm waiting for him to get back with the plan.
And part of that, we needed to make sure with the engineer's report that what the brick mason had came in and looked at and made a plan to do was going to be appropriate under the circumstances. And like I said, Mr. Gary Bowden was supposed to be there last week in order to do this. Matter of fact, we had asked Gary to come out and do the engineer's report before we met with Block Mason. It got backwards because of some emergencies that Gary had. So the brick mason came out there, looked at it last week. He made a plan of what he thought was appropriate for the repairs to be made. This morning, then Gary Bowden came
I met this morning
and
and
they okayed the plans, and whatever we do, it will be working through with Gary Bowden to make sure that it is feasible, engineering wise.
so
And
we,
it's appropriate, because I mean, the block mason is simply a block mason, he's not an engineer. And so we want to make sure that whatever he does is appropriate to secure that side of the building. for certain.
when I was working with David and I'll be more than happy to work with Sean. Is that I would have to present it to the Historic Planning Commission for approval and appropriateness. Is why it was gathered, that would have to be brought to their meeting for approval.
I would think that possibly what would be appropriate, maybe if we could do a 90-day review. And hopefully we could have it done within the 90 days, depending upon weather and things like that. But maybe what we could do is for the appeal purposes, do a 90-day review to see where we're at, make sure that we've got all the engineering approval on what the block mason's doing, and to get a we've got to get the historic commission to approve, and we've got to get a plan set forth from the block mason of exactly what he's going to do. Because my understanding, we've got to get the approval on the outside portion of it with the brick matching the other brick, and for the historical planning commission to approve. So we've got hoops we've got to jump through in order to get it done. And so to set out a deadline, I'd hate to
But
say.
before we get too far in this, I want to hear from Sean and bring us up on that side, how we got to this point, and then we'll get into this.
Are there any
Briefly.
questions for me at this point regarding the building or?
Just anybody, we'll bring you back up,
Okay.
but let's let Sean explain how we got to this point.
So this particular case did start in April of last year. During that time, we had municipal inspection partners who we had doing inspections. Chuck Riffergetti with that company did do an original inspection. We opened the case. We did send a notice of violation. Mr. Lackett did get that. We were in discussions with him. We did get those concrete blocks up there to help with stabilization. He was supposed to be getting a hold of masons, getting things rolling, and then it started going radio silence. We weren't getting anything. In January, former Director Baird did send an email requesting the same thing I sent in May, which was to get us a report, get us a plan together, get that in there so that we had something to move forward with. I do not know of any record of a different address. We go off the record that is with the county assessor tied to the property. All correspondence was sent to that. He did get the demolition order, which was sent to the same address as the previous letter was. And the demolition order was issued. And I want to make this very clear. The demolition order was issued by the department, the Community Development Department. It was not by the Historic Zoning Commission. I took it in front of the Historic Zoning Commission for review and approval to have their side off of it, even though that is not required. And so the Historic Zoning Commission did not issue that demolition order. I issued that demolition order. That demolition order was sent because the second letter requesting a report and a plan of action was not responded to. So we did send that by certified mail. The number is in there. If it was not received, there's nothing I can do about that when I send it to the record of address. We are on the 2018 code, and that includes the 2018 IMPC, which was cited on the demolition order and the other violations with that. And those section ties to the building. As far as issuing the demolition order, no, we didn't want to. Yes, it is a historical building. There is a lot of tie to the city and historic significance to that building. But we cannot continue to let a potential safety hazard override the historical nature of the building. Nor can we continue and not have a plan with firm dates to get necessary repairs done. And so that's how that got issued, and that's how we ended up here today. I did speak with Mr. Lackett via phone, and he was notified of this meeting date.
Would you feel comfortable if there were a plan presented of working? It's my opinion, I don't know about the board, the building needs to be saved if at all possible. I mean, it's still a good building. I understand that if you don't respond, that's the only way to communicate. And that's why that was sent, I guess, is no response. And we understand that. So we've got to get to a point that something's got to happen. Oh, but would you be willing to?
The end goal for the city is to get compliance and remove the safety concerns related to the structure. Nothing more, nothing less. In the best means possible. If we are going to, and if it's the desire of the board, then we will need to do an agreement to abate, which is similar to what we did to another building right at the street on Spring Street,
Yep.
which has hard deadlines that will have to be met. And we will need a plan of action agreed to deadlines that are reasonable and that are going to be met.
And I think you've got to understand, this is a job, no contractor wants that job. I mean, it's a job nobody wants. If you've got a friend, maybe you can talk them into doing it. Because they could be out doing that's a difficult job. It's just, it can be done. But it's, you can't just go next week and get somebody to do it because,
No, I was running into a lot of problems.
Right,
mean,
I understand that.
interviewed 5 or 6 people, and some of the people, all the people that were in the notes from Sean there. We had them all out. I didn't get written proposal bids back from any of them. Oscar, one that's in here, wanted $20,000 to take the wall down. Was his quote, and that was a verbal quote. And I asked him to submit me a written bid. I never received anything. And I called 3 or 4 people and had them come in and assess the wall. And, you know, I ran the gamut from, you know, you repair this, you take the whole thing down, and, you know, everyone had different thoughts and ideas about what should be done with that. So, you know, I realize there's a problem, and I want to fix the problem because it, you know, as bad as it is for McMinnville, it's worse on me personally.
Yeah.
And that's the truth.
So we do have the request to kind of reverse the decision for demolition. Do you have a timeline in for yourself of when you think it would be appropriate to revisit this?
I'm okay with revisiting 90 days. I think that's, you know, where they're gonna shit or get off the bottom, you know? I mean, I'm fine with that. And if I can't do it, then I'll sell it and let someone else in town do it. But I have 5 or 6 people that want to buy it.
You understand under the code, you cannot sell it though. That's he cannot sell it once the demolition order and.
Yeah, with the demolition order,
Under the-
that has to be removed.
underneath the code that we're going by, he cannot sell or transfer it once there's an order down. So he is constrained by that.
right.
What do you feel like I don't feel like 90 days. I feel like 90 days is extensive in this circumstance, you know, given that this is something that's been ongoing for quite some time. Do you think that you could get something together in 30 days? Do you think that you and Sean could develop, you know,
A plan?
a plan, just
The plan-
something?
The plan we can, but we have to still go before the historic planning commission. We have to have the engineer review the plan and sign off on, I mean, there's.
Right. I
There's a
understand,
lot
I
of steps.
understand,
That's
yeah.
why I'm saying in 90 days, I feel good. We can go through all that. We can get before the historic planning condition, probably in 60 days. Have a plan in 30, go before the commission. If today's June, when they meet in July, so this is end of July, it's September, go before them and hopefully have approval on them to move forward.
My plan at 90 days was that we would be substantially along the way, not just with a plan in 90 days.
But if we're going to revisit this, I don't want to wait 90 days to revisit this. I would like to revisit this in 30 days or less and say, I want to see the timeline.
I
Like
think
the
it's
timeline
impossible
with
for
the,
30 days. There's too many loops to jump through. He can't. Maybe 60 days. He could work with historic zoning and come up with something. This is going to be time intense, but we've got to see some action. The danger of it, it's just not brick falling off, hitting people in the head every day. I mean, it's in a remote area there. Nobody should be back there to start with.
No, and we can fence it. I mean, there's stuff we can do in between that time. I mean, we could put a hard fence there. I mean, we can
But-
keep people away from that area.
But what we want to stress, this is something that, and Mark, sometimes you get a little lax on following through, not being critical, and that's why and we thank the world of you, but that's where we're at. And we don't want to go out on a limb and then you let us down and
Here's where I'm at. I like the order rescinded. If I can't do something in 90 days, we're gonna get the building to someone who can. That's really where I'm at. If I can't fix it, this building does not need to come down. I do not need to stand in the way. If I can't do it for whatever reason, financial or time wise, I can't get down here, then someone else needs to take this building and put it back to where it is.
Well, you've given a lot of hard work to get to this point, and you got to consider what your building is worth versus, I mean, the building is worthless now till you fix this, but then you're gonna have a pretty
And
nice.
I would like to keep the building. The building, you know, if I have my druthers, you know, I won't be selling the building, you know. But I also didn't buy it to tear it down,
Right.
you know, that.
Yeah.
I didn't do what I've done, you know, over the past 20 years with it to rip it down again. It'll tear my heart out to do it. So I
Sean,
gotta either fix it or get out of the way of it.
is there any, I guess, code or anything in place from the city's perspective on what is kind of the appropriate next steps for this?
Let Tim address
Or
this,
Tim,
please.
yeah.
Yeah, may I be heard? The issue before this body is whether or not the decision of the McMinnville Historic Zoning Commission on May 30, 2023 was arbitrary and capricious. That's the sole question before this body. To your point about 30 days, if this body determines that the action in the issuance of the order of demolition was not arbitrary and capricious by the McMinnville Historic Zoning Commission, then Mr. Latka is owner of the property, who has acknowledged receiving the order of demolition, who, according to Sean, signed the receipt for the citation leading to the order of demolition. If you find that their action was not arbitrary and capricious, then it's your responsibility to affirm that order. Mr. Latka, again, as the owner of the building, has 30 days to appeal such a decision to the Chancery Court and make his case there. But 30 days is the time limit, and any modification of the, or stay or continuance of the order of demolition is not the appropriate remedy. The remedy is in the law because it has been driven into the law by the absence of action heretofore. And to the extent that that is the legal procedure, and where we are in the legal procedure, as secretary of this body, I would ask you to make a copy of the record from the McMinnville Planning Commission and exhibit to this hearing.
Tim, I have a question. Would not, as I understand this was issued somewhat to get a response. Are we not being a little extreme on this? To tear down a perfectly good building because of another building? Yeah,
We're not obsessed with tearing down the building. In fact, Mr. Latka's testimony and his photographic evidence of substantial repairs he's made to the building are undisputed. There is a floor in the building that didn't used to exist. There is a roof, clearly a metal roof on the building. The concern the city has is health and safety. It's not about aesthetics, this juncture. It's not about preservation. It's about public safety and health because of the building that is in a dilapidated condition and has been as far back as I can remember. And you've seen the evidence that's been presented. I would suggest if you look at the engineer's report Mr. Latka submitted, if you turn to the last 3 pages, if you have photographs, there is an obvious disintegration and bulging of the wall. The page before that shows the same thing. The engineer says on page 2 of the report, the brick wall on the second floor level has severe cracks and begin to implode. He refers to his own photographs that are page 25 of his report. He says in conclusion, if you look at the bottom of that same page, it is a life-threatening concern unless remediated. So I would suggest to you that given the documented history of this case and the long term during which it has been addressed by codes, that the city has a legal obligation to protect the public. Whatever else may be true or untrue, it is incumbent upon the city in its first order of business to protect the health and safety and welfare of its citizens. Whether it's the Blue Building or the Denny Morris Building or any other historic structure, we've got to protect the safety of the citizenry. So unless you find the historic planning, the historic commission's demolition order to have been arbitrary and capricious, it's your responsibility to affirm it, which again would start a 30-day clock, not a 90-day clock, a 30-day clock within which the landowner can appeal your decision to the Chancery Court.
Tim, I have a question now. This was his historic zoning. Sean presented that to them as a way to communicate. I think we're getting a little extreme in my opinion, on the situation. The danger is not that immediate that somebody's going to get killed on that property. I mean, in a few days, one day or another, I don't think it's my opinion.
Well, I think my question is going back to the safety concern. As a board, I guess what you're saying as a board, the only grounds that we have to approve this appeal is to agree as a board that the demolition order was arbitrary and capricious when it was issued.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to be clear on what our role and responsibility as a board
But
is.
you got to
And
keep
that is-
in mind how that was established. See, I mean, we got to be fair
Right.
about it. Mark wants to address, do you have anything else?
Let me conclude with one comment. Nothing precludes Mr. Latko in light of if you affirm the order of demolition. There's nothing to preclude him from coming forward with a plan that is satisfactory to codes, which could then initiate remedial action or relief from the order of demolition.
But we can issue another one right quick if he doesn't come up with a plan, right?
No, you have to go through the process all over again.
Well,
Has
that's
to be
not a big deal.
inspections. There have to be citations for zoning violations. There has to be a hearing before the McMinnville Historic Zoning Commission, and then depending upon its decision, any appellate process to this entity. Which again, you go back to work to the starting point.
Okay, we have 2 other people. Let Mark
I'd
speak.
like to address the legal aspects of what was just said, okay? I think there's a misinterpretation of the standard here. Under the international code that we are under, as I understand, under section 111 means of appeal and application for appeal, says any person directly affected by the decision of code official or a notice or order issued under this code shall have the right to appeal to the Board of Appeals, provided that a written application for appeal is filed within 20 days after the date of decision, notice, or order was served. He did that. An application for appeal shall be based on a claim that the true intent of this code or the rules legally adopted thereunder have been incorrectly interpreted. The provisions of this code do not fully apply, or the requirements of this code are adequately satisfied by other means. There's nothing in there that says that the appeal is based upon the arbitrary and capricious behavior of the codes person. It clearly says that this board has the right to determine, and specifically that the requirements of this code are adequately satisfied by other means. You look at the rest of this code, and there are all kinds of things that can adequately satisfy the intent. The intent of the code is to provide for safety. That's what it's intended for. We want to make sure our buildings are safe and secure for all of our citizens. So you look at all the other codes prior to a demolition. There are codes in here that says that the city can take emergency measures. When in the opinion of the code official, there's imminent danger of failure or collapse of a building or structure that endangers lives, or any structure or part of the structure is fallen and life is endangered by the occupation of the structure, or when there's actual potential danger to the building occupants or those in proximity of there, the code official is authorized and empowered to order and require the occupants to vacate the premises. And it goes on to say that they can order that the structure be repaired. There are other means
So
that we can do.
just to clarify, you're speaking, the initial code violation notices started being sent out in April of 2022.
Well,
Whether reception happened or however that worked, the deterioration of the building, the falling of the bricks started in then. Some were received. So I do feel like to an extent, we have kind of gone through a certain level of steps as a city to take a look at these
if
things.
I could address that. We are going by codes, and we are, I mean, we want to work with y'all and we don't want these problems, okay? We want to work with it. But when we start talking about the only means this board has, and it's based upon arbitrary and capricious, then we have to really look at this illegalities. In this code, it also requires certain things for noticing. Okay, this is absolute requirement. When anytime there's notices and orders to be issued, it says that such notice prescribed in section 107.1 shall be in accordance with the following: be in writing, include a description of the real estate sufficient for identification, include a statement of the violation or violations implying the notice is being issued, include a correction order allowing reasonable time to make the repairs and improvements required to bring the dwelling unit or structure into compliance with provisions of this code. Inform the property owner or the owner's authorized agents of the right to appeal. Include a statement of the right to file a lien in accordance with section 106.3. Then it says method of service. Such notice shall be deemed to be properly served if a copy thereof is delivered personally, which we all agree that none of the notices were delivered personally, sent by certified or first-class mail addressed to the last known address. Was not sent to his last known address, was not sent certified. If notice is returned showing the letter was not delivered, a copy thereof shall be posted in a conspicuous place in or about the structure affected by such notice. That wasn't done. These notices he wasn't getting. We know that. He testified that he wasn't getting these notices. But the big thing is as I said, we want to talk. We don't want to fight over technicalities. We don't want this. But when we come in here and we start saying that the board has no choice, when clearly the code that we're working under gives this board a choice. And this board can clearly find that there's other means to satisfy the intent of this code. And I think that under this code, if you look at it, there's all kinds of things that you can do under unsafe structures and equipment. You can give them notice and give them a deadline to fix it. If he doesn't fix it, you can actually bring him before the court and actually fine him for every day that it's not fixed. That would be normally our first step before we start into demolition. A demolition is kind of the last standard that we do. And then even when you look at the demolition order and we talk about whether or not this code has been properly interpreted, The demolition, under the demolition section 110, the code official shall order the owner or owner's authorized agent of any premises upon which is located any structure which in the code officials or owner's authorized agent judgment, after review, is so deteriorated or dilapidated or has been so out of repair as to be dangerous, unsafe, insanitary, or otherwise unfit for human habitation or occupancy. And the second part of this, that it is unreasonable to repair the structure. Before there can even be a demolition order, you have to find under this code that it is unreasonable to repair the structure. And then if you find that it's unreasonable to repair the structure, then you can order it to be demolished and remove such structure or a structure, or if such structure is capable of being made safe by repairs to repair and make safe and sanitary, or there's even the option to board up and hold for future repair, or to demolish and remove at the owner's option. Not at the code official's option, not at the board's option. The owner under this statute has the option to make the repairs under our code. Okay,
Can I interject one thing here? The old building on Main Street, I had the option to repair it or tear it down.
and that's what the code allows. That's what this international code that we're under allows. And so instead of saying whether
I
it's
tore it down.
actions were arbitrary or capricious, what we have to look at as what the statute requires us to do, or say, or the requirements of this code met, which means that notice is sent in compliance with this code, that hearings were held in compliance with this code, that he was given an opportunity to fix based upon a notice given to him saying, we want you to do X, Y, Z. And even then, are there requirements of the code? Are they adequately satisfied by other means? And I think that under the other means, we can definitely find there's other things that can be done under this code that would allow him to repair this property and save this. This is a very important building. I'm very big into historical buildings. I own 2 of them in White County myself. And to tear down a piece of history would be a real sad blight upon this, especially when we're looking at Main Street funding and trying to save buildings and try to rehab our downtown. Y'all have a beautiful downtown. I love coming down here. Mary Little and I debate all the time. She says she loves White Counties, and I say, yeah, but I love McMinnville. I think that they both are doing a great job in what they're doing. And I think that my client wants to continue that and make sure that that building stays.
Okay. I think we have another lady. We have some more people that need to speak. This lady here, did you want to speak?
I was just saying that correct, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I will say this, sorry, I will say this, I'm here, I work with the History Museum next door, Heritage Alliance. And I will say, I agree, this building does not need to be torn down, but it does need to be repaired.
Right.
It doesn't need to be in a point where it doesn't matter if people don't typically walk over there. You can't control anything. Somebody could just be over there because cars park in that area. There could be any reason. We've got a homeless population. There's the chance of the unknown and there can't be that risk.
We agree with all that.
Yeah,
We have another gentleman back here that needs to speak.
So-
This is taking a lot of time.
I'm Danny Jones. I'm the property owner next door, joining Mark on both sides. I just wanted to speak to the time frame. Up until recently, there was a lot of foot traffic through that area, but the city was gracious enough to approve a fence on our property. And that has effectively halted the traffic through there. So really the only traffic through that area would be our family members and our employees at the store. So just in regard to the time frame, we would be certainly acceptable. We don't have a say in it, but on Mark's behalf, I would request the 90 days as opposed to 30 days. As a contractor, I understand it takes a lot of time to get things in order, and Mark's been gracious enough to allow us to park our cars on his lot there on that corner. And so it's typically our cars that are parked there and blocking further access to that corner. So in my opinion, the immediate danger to the public is not great. And so on his behalf, I would request 90 days as opposed to 30.
Okay, thank you very much for that comment. Mark, did you want to
Yeah,
just
I do have
briefly?
one question, regarding the demolition order. And I've pointed this out to the city before, is that the wall in question is not the Dinty Moore. It's on the Main Street
That is
property.
correct.
If a demolition order should have been issued, it should have been on 205 East Main Street, not the Dinty Moore building. Because that's where the wall resides. It's part of 205 East Main Street's lot and deed, and that's what should be demolished, not the Dinty Moore building.
That
And
is
that was
absolutely
pointed
correct.
out to the city
I
last
agree
year.
with you.
So that is a big sticking point with me. We want to tear something down. I've showed you, there's nothing wrong with the Dinty Moore building. I can support those H beams, and that wall could come down and the Dinty Moore building would stand fine. And you could have an empty.
I think, Mark, we need to move on. This was part to get you to communicate according to Sean. And I think this is more on this end than the historic zoning. I think historic zoning will work with you. I may be out of line saying this. I hope I'm not.
I want to work with, I want to get a resolution of this.
But I don't think we have to demand you tear the building down today. I mean, I know we've got an attorney here, but if this board has no power, we need to just go away and not even look at anything and,
I've got a question.
okay.
Okay, so you said that if we stop it today, then we have to go through the whole process again, correct? What if we table it for 90 days, or can you do that, or is that a
30
possibility? Or
days or-
The law requires a decision, action to be taken within 30 days. That's why Sean put this on the agenda. The city doesn't have the right to string the landowner out. It goes on the agenda of the next meeting as a matter of force under the rules.
Tim, we did right down here on Spring Street, did the same thing on the McGregor house. We gave them a time frame. It was to be demolished.
Well, that we
And
did,
it was really falling down. Now, you talk about the hazard. I was afraid to even go in it.
Are we talking about the building on Spring Street?
Yes.
Yeah.
The McGregor house.
The
you know the
landowner
house.
came forward with a plan of remediation.
Right.
Supported by expert opinions, unlike.
Yes, but that went on for a long, long time before we got that.
I'm not making excuses, I'm simply.
And I'm not debating you. I got
Yeah.
a lot of respect for you and your opinions. So don't get me wrong.
The landowner came forward with a plan
Eventually, yes.
and executed the plan. Well, when forced. Because we
Well,
were
and-
before the BZA on that structure under a demolition rule, not shut. And we appeared and the landowner represented by council presented a plan of remediation
Right.
that it's being executed. That's
Right.
the history of that, to distinguish it.
Well, we can beat this to death here. It's a matter, do we want him to have to tear the building down or not? Personally, I don't want him to tear the building down. I think we can give him 90 days.
And correct me, I'm reading
And I-
the code, and the code says we shall have a hearing within 20 days of the appeal, but it does not say the decision has to be made within 20 days of the notice of the appeal.
That's a good
Since we have
point.
to have a hearing,
It's a mandatory
hearing.
hearing that
But it does not say that we have to make a decision within that 20 days. We have to have a hearing. We've held that hearing. Y'all can obviously then decide that we want to postpone making a decision on that and table it back for another day to make a decision on it. And that's what we would be requesting, is that we table it back.
Can we not just table this?
Is there anybody else that wants to
I-
speak?
be perfectly honest with you, under Robert's rules, I think the entity could table, but it would have to table to a specific date,
And I think that'd be.
not an indefinite table. There's
Absolutely.
frankly no such thing as an indefinite
Okay,
table under Robert's.
that's reasonable.
Are you, and you said there that you're not getting this, are you still living in New Jersey?
Yes.
Where you- I
40 where I
Kearney?
sent my appeal,
Okay,
at
yeah.
49 Alpine Place.
Yeah.
I have my email there, my phone number in there. You know,
Sure.
And we'd ask any further notes to be sent there as well as to my office.
So to clarify, if we deny the request for appeal, there's 30 days where there's time to then go in front of the chancery, the city
Chancery
court. And have them review this at that point in time, correct?
Yes.
And that someone could then approach the chancery court with documentation and we're fixing this and have done this.
And why do we have a process of your board, a board of
Yeah,
appeals?
I'm
present
agree
this
with
to-
that. Yeah, we're getting too complicated here on a simple matter, in my opinion.
Is this,
There would actually be a lawsuit being filed against the city. What would happen? We would file a lawsuit against the city saying that the board at that point would be arbitrary and capricious.
Tim, can we not
And
table
we
this
don't
for
wanna do
90
that.
days,
We don't.
bring it back up? And if he does,
My opinion under Robert's rules is you might table to a date certain. That is a date certain as opposed to a time frame.
so we could look on the calendar and get a date
That you're gonna have a meeting.
90 days from today.
Well, can we put that he works? I mean, the thing, y'all, can y'all
Right.
work together?
Absolutely.
I mean, you're 850 miles, 800, how many ever away, once you're excited now, but when you get there, is it still gonna go on or what are we gonna do?
And based on what
I
we
mean,
did, based on what we did with the house on Spring Street. What was it, order of abatement? Is that to
Agreement to abate.
agreement to abatement? Can we work that out within 30 days? Can you work out an agreement for abatement within 30 days and then we come back in 30 days and look at this again? Because I think that's really what
I think
the
that
issue
that's the
is.
problem. It's probably if we could do for the order of abatement 60 days, so we can get the engineer back and make sure that we've got everything. Because the order of abatement is going to have specific
Mhm.
things that has to be done.
Right, and I think that's what we need.
Well, you understand, it took us about 3.5 weeks and on an emergency basis to get the engineer out this time. And we've got to get the report from the block mason with regard, we've gone over with the engineer what the block mason says that he can do. But we've got to get his specifics down in writing, get to the engineer approve that, get it to then Mr. Garrett, so that he can approve that. So that we can do an order of abatement. And this is, we have to have, before we do the order of abatement, we have to have approval through the historic planning commission
The
to.
only thing that is gonna change material or anything on the outside walls that have to go.
And so we need to approve whatever before we even do the order of abatement. Because the order of abatement is going to be specific agreement that's going to be enforceable against them. So we're going to need at least 60 days to get those steps done for certain.
And I have to get historic zoning approval because that part of that wall has to come down and be replaced.
So 60 days from now, our 60-ish day meeting is going to be the 26th of September.
That is correct. And you need to set that specific date because it's gonna have to be at a meeting date, not.
Jim, are you okay with that?
It's a pleasure to board.
And Sean, do you feel like that's a reasonable
We could reconvene in 60 days.
timeline to be able to get everything together to present an agreement for abatement?
Yeah.
What time would you like to do that meeting?
Well, it would just be our
It'd be
11
regular,
o'clock.
our regular
11
schedule
o'clock.
to shake. That's what it would be.
Okay, we need a
So
motion
when-
to that effect. Do we have one?
I make a motion that we table the appeal until the meeting, until the regularly scheduled meeting on September the 26th.
Second. Okay, we have a motion second. Any more discussion? Sean? Everybody's okay. Okay. Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, motion carries. Okay. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we need a motion to adjourn this meeting. We'll move into the Board of Zoning Appeals.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. Yeah, I was, you not going to.
That's so excited. You got excited.
Oh, I gotta find the water. Hey, Tim, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks, Tim.
You're right there, Rebecca. Yeah, I know what Robert says.
Yeah, yeah. I know. But anyway. Sean, are we ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, at this time, we're gonna call the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting to order. The first item of business will be the minutes of our regular meeting. Has everyone had a chance to look over these?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, have a motion to approve as written and dismissed with reading in the second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, motion carries. Next item is review and public hearing of a special exception for daycare, and this is located at 525 Weston Avenue. All of you should be familiar with this. Used to be a church. May have been used for daycare.
Thanks.
Is someone here to present that? Okay, come forward, state your name for the record and tell us a little bit, please.
I'm Leanne Richardson. I'm the owner and operator of Smarty Pants 1 on 369 Garfield, and also the owner and operator of Smarty Pants 2 at 142 Hot Wheels Lane. And I come before you today to ask for a special exemption at the address of 525 Weston Avenue. The intent is to open a childcare facility there. It was previously a church. Calvary, I believe, was the name of it. It has adequate parking on both sides of the building. And this was already voted on by and received a special exemption from the mayor and aldermen. So I just come before you guys to see if that is still available to us.
We hear good words about your
Thank
daycare
you.
and what you do, so we appreciate that. Sean, you want to comment on that, please?
Yeah, so with this, everything meets all the regulatory guidelines. This is one of the changes that we did to allow daycare centers in that R2 zone district under the special exception. That amendment to the zoning was approved by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. And again, all the parking, minimum parking is met by this. The requirement of 3,000 square foot building is met with the proposal. Everything's met. Shouldn't be any issues. It won't be any more impactful than the church that was previously
Okay.
there.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second being the way. Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, Leanne.
The next item of business is review for a multi-family housing property that's located on Birchville Highway. Is someone here to present this?
No, nobody is at this point. To our knowledge, the applicant was going to be here, so.
What do we do if they're not here?
Right here.
We've got somebody.
I'm not here to present anything about that.
Come forward and say, we can't hear you. You have to state your name. We can't.
Good morning, I'm Brad Kaplan,
Thank you.
former owner of Capellanos. You guys probably all know me, lived in McMinnville many years. I own the Wiltshire building across the street from this property in question. There was a notice put on my building that this meeting was here this morning about this 5-unit multifamily. I came in case my input was needed, and I'm disappointed that the person responsible for it is not here today. So I don't know if anything I have to say would have any.
I don't think we'll take any action on this. Will Sean with? the-
No, you guys should probably
There's
take
no
it to the
reason.
next meeting until the applicant.
So if you want
So that there
to,
is any questions.
if you want to comment on it, you'll have to come if it's rescheduled sometime.
Okay, I don't know the details, but just on the surface of it, I think it's, I would approve it fine with me as
Okay.
as a neighbor owning property.
Well, we
nearby.
appreciate you being here. That's very nice.
Okay,
And
thank you.
sir, if you would like to, it'll be part of this, since the actual public hearing and decision will be at the next meeting. You can just write that and bring that into us. You don't have to come to the next meeting to
Unless you want to.
Unless you want to. Well, you can include the record either way, so.
I'd like to meet the people that are doing the development. I'm curious.
Okay, well, you can be here.
And that's, would I get another notice?
Yes, we'll give you another notice that's at table.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any staff updates?
Nope.
Okay. Need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So, yeah.
Good job, everybody.
Man,
Well, we're not quite done yet, Jim. We got plenty of commission.
Hey, Jim, you know,
Jim,
sorry.
I think I'm the only one that gets to.
Can we take a quick recess, Jerry? Jerry, can we take a quick recess before we go to the planning commission?
Yes, sir, sir.
Well, we can, or this won't last long.
Busy, I've got a 12:30 that I'm. And I gotta change into my boots.
I was lost.
I don't know.
What are y'all? I hear.
I know. And I give them a guy.
You can't turn the building down because it's a separate building and it's, the tree grew up.
It needs to be fixed, but.
Yeah, that's. Well, that's, that's why I got on to it because. These are access.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Yeah,
He's gonna drug his feet for 20 years.
yeah. And I didn't want to be rude to him, but
No, but that, you're right.
Yeah, we're being like him.
and if he does,
They couldn't work.
but the historic committee shouldn't have.
No.
I think that was a little extreme, but if somebody don't respond, what do you do?
I mean, what's?
Pardon?
We'll meet with you just in 1 minute.
Who were we missing?
Guy from First National. We got enough. I can't remember his name though. Michael Weir.
Oh, yeah, Michael. Weir. He's got Michael Weir not gonna be here. Ben Myers is not gonna be here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 4 out of 7.
I thought we needed that.
Oh,
I think we're okay.
Are you sure? You don't have another. I would have copied for you.
Are we back?
Oh, right.
I think we're going for Appleton now.
You don't have another paper copy.
I need one also.
I've got it.
I've got it on my phone, but I've been looking at it.
You need to go from when you send it on that email to over here. It won't- Sometimes it won't. Anybody else?
Me.
Okay. Sean, are you ready for?
Yes, sir.
Okay, at this time we'll call the McMinnville Planning Commission meeting to order. First item of business will be the minutes from June the 27th. Has everyone had a chance to look over those? Any correction or deletions?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as prepared.
Okay, have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Being none, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Okay. Next is the annexation of 521 Pike Hill Road, Jerry Denton.
I believe just stepped to the restroom, so he'll be right back here.
I think we wore him out.
Pour me out.
Is,
I told him this one will go quicker, so.
yeah,
We shouldn't have too much.
Sean, that property is that in behind? Okay, you're up finally. Just come up here and state your name and sorry about the wait.
That's all right. Things take time. Jerry Denton, I operate Fanny Beast Manor.
Right.
Hill Road.
Okay, so you're wanting to annex some more property there, right?
To annex the building lots into the.
Yeah, we love it. Don't we, Sean?
It's right adjacent to commercial property within the city district. We went over the agreement plan, which is the outline that is provided for you guys. The official and a resolution form will go to the
Yeah, you
to
did a
the
good
board
job.
on this, but
Appreciate it.
we're good on that. And so it is on the septic system currently,
Mhm.
which can remain, and then if we got to connect, then that'll be done at that time. But
Yeah.
it meets all the annexation criteria and just go for you guys to recommendation to the board. So
Okay. Well, that's the only way we can grow is request. So do we have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the request annexation. So, 521 Pike Hill Road.
Yeah.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion, being none, call for the vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, okay, you're ready for the board, Mayor and Alderman.
It didn't even hurt.
I will reach out to you shortly and give you the dates on that. Okay, sir? Thank you, Mr.
Good
Dean.
seeing you.
Thank you.
He was so good to my mother, she was out there at Penny B's,
Yeah.
great guy. He built that to take care of his family, and then he kept doing it because it was.
I always thought that was already in the city, but I guess it wasn't.
Well, I would wonder, but. Okay, now we're moving on to amendment to amend the lot size for R2 for duplex. Sean, you did an excellent job, or Rebecca, somebody did, on all that information. I'm sure y'all have had time to look over it and make up your mind what you want to do.
Oh, well, a little bit of R2, we got him, so you know about it, looking at it the way you got it marked on here, I was just, you think about R2, but we don't have a lot of R2.
Well, looks like on that, it would, on your drawing here, it would mostly just change the rear yard. On most cases, right?
Yeah, like I say, it's just gonna get down to that 10,000.
Yeah.
Like I say, if you get in, we allow that with the special exception for a threeplex, they could do it now on an 11,000 square foot lot.
Yeah.
Which would be because they got to meet the R3 requirements. That's the R3 requirement. So this would be just for the duplex, taking it down from that 14,450 to the 10,000 to allow a duplex.
Yeah.
It's not, a lot of the pre-existing lots are already going to be developed. And so unless they came in and demolished and did a bunch of things, as far as pre-developed lots now, it's not going to change much on that. On some of the bigger lots, if they went to subdivide or something, there'd be a little bit of effect there. But most existing R2, there's houses there, the placement isn't necessarily going to allow for the duplex and meet everything. So it wouldn't be a broad effect across R2 as a whole. It's going to be more vacant lots that are undeveloped at this time. And it would just give that little bit more flexibility out there, you know.
Yeah, it's not going to change a whole lot.
No.
Really. How does the board feel about this, Rachel?
Well,
Well, you feel,
I've always been opposed to making them smaller. I think that's a little tiny spot to put a duplex on. And so I'm just gonna be against that.
it's 100 by 100 roughly. How you feel about it?
And with that size and with the lot coverage, it would kind of limit as far as the size of the structures that somebody could do. So even with that, they may
No,
go
you're
bigger
fine.
lot and still keep it at 13,000-14,000.
You might
to
get
have
20
room
more
on that.
duplexes in the whole area,
Yeah.
roughly. You might could use a lot that you couldn't use before that. No, this balance can come to.
Yeah, it shouldn't result in a big change. So
What about where they add another one? And I guess that was does it keep going if I wanted to have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 as far as this other?
no, because then it's got to meet the R3 requirements and they have to come in for the special exception on that.
Okay,
And so then that kicks into the whole another realm. This would just be for the duplex part.
I don't see any wrong with it. Do you?
Mhm.
I don't see anything.
I could live with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, what are we? You just dropped it, what, 3,000? What is it right now, 13?
14.5, yeah. You're dropping it a third of
You're
the
giving-
lot, yeah, but
A little bit more chance that somebody put something on it. you know?
right. Mhm.
Instead of one house, you got 2 places. And we're growing like crazy around here. I mean, we are. I mean, people's coming in here like,
Well, I personally rather see a duplex is a 8-plex or a 10-plex or
Yeah.
something.
Me
A
too.
duplex usually is pretty well maintained.
and you got,
great.
I have found if you got a duplex, most of your owners, they'll take better care of a
Yeah.
duplex than something that's
Like I say, you get a fourplex or something, that's it, they keep on getting
Yeah,
out. you
yeah,
get into
and then,
problems
yeah.
then.
No,
But I know I've seen like in Lebanon and stuff, duplexes in an area that look like R1, really. You
Yeah.
see a duplex and, but it's desire of the Lord. And this will go to the mayor and Alderman, so.
Yeah.
Let's see, let's see what we here it is. I make a motion, we approve the zoning text amendment of R2. A lot of requirements on R2. Good enough?
We got a motion, we have a second.
I second.
Okay, we got a second. Any more discussion? Okay, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay. We'll make record of that. And you'll get another shot at it. Okay, now, staff updates. Do you have any, Sean?
I don't have any at this point.
Good. Good.
Well, if we were getting ready to get out there.
Do we have a motion adjourned?
Some of us still have more meetings later today.
Oh,
I do too.
thank you all for all your work.
Yes,
Thank you.
y'all did good.
So let me get this straight.
Wait,
Before
before
we-
anybody said anything.
the
you wanna turn
biggest
the
thing-
sound off?
Yes.
They were fighting today was one wall. Is that?